Make Your Move is about ownership, owning your expertise, your ambition, and your next step. In this conversation, we'll explore what it takes to move with purpose and impact. Please welcome Chelsea McDougall.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you. You are new to the Girls Who Print conference scene, as we say. So please let everybody know more about you, what you do, and most important, how your work helps move the industry forward.
So as Deborah said, I'm Chelsea McDougall. I am editor of Labels and Labeling magazine, and I'm also the content director for LOUPE Global Series. LOUPE is formerly Labelexpo Global Series, just went through a rebrand earlier this year. At the risk of sounding, too, I don't know, self-important, I suppose, my role isn't really just reporting on the industry. The way I view it, it's really shaping the industry. Loop and Labels and Labeling are both a global platform, and I have a lot of connections with label and printing converters and suppliers from around the globe. And the work that I do and the work that my team does truly influences the industry, from what we decide what we cover and feature in the magazine to the features at the Loop events to the education. In my opinion, we're not just reporting on the momentum of the industry. We kind of are, we're generating it in a lot of ways. We're the original influencers, as I like to say. As Labels and Labeling, it's a leading print publication, and Loop is the only global show for the label and packaging industry. And I think there's a lot of influence there. And really, my overarching goals with the articles at Labels and Labeling and the content that we have at Loop shows is really to help converters elevate their thinking from the day-to-day kind of survival mode of maybe how do I run this print job to really where should my business be in 5 years? So we're really kind of that gap for the industry between the with the technical, and we really kind of connect the whole ecosystem.
I love that. It comes up a lot in my work too. And I'm like, look, if you just want me to perpetuate your corporate messaging, I'm not the person for
Right.
you. But if you want to talk about that strategy, if you want to talk about the vision you have for your company and how you're going to help the printers 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, I am your person. So I love that that you are refer to yourself as shaping the industry. Although we do have to talk about at another point about you being humble about that. You need to shout it from the rooftops that this is an important role that you do, and it is important. So you should shout it from the rooftops. I just want to focus on loop, excuse me, for one more moment because speaking about moving forward, you took an established brand. I mean, apologies. I don't know how long Label Expo was going on for, but it was, I mean, I've been to at least 10 of them. And they rotate between Europe and America, the ones I go to, although it's a global show, of course. So can you talk us a little bit about why the evolution?
With Label Expo, it's been around about 40 years. And you're right, it was this very established, well-known, well-loved brand. But it was a bit of a double-edged sword calling it Label Expo because it really kind of limited the audience growth. People would say, why would I go to a Label Expo show? I'm a folding cartons manufacturer. I'm a flexible packaging manufacturer. Why would I go to that show? When really we're seeing the industry over the years, we've been seeing it kind of transform, and label converters were adding flexible packaging capabilities. They are diversifying and adding folding carton. So with that, we did a lot of research among the team, the management team, and they hired brand consultants and did all lots of research that went into it, learning and interviewing key suppliers and key stakeholders to say, hey, if we were to do this, would you come with us? Would you follow us? And the overall, overwhelmingly said yes. We trust you. We believe in this. We also see the same thing. And I think people really love it. They're also seeing it too. It's not like we invented this or pulled it out of thin air, right? It's where the industry was already kind of moving to that kind of mid-web or inline production.
I learned more about flexible packaging at the last Label Expo in Chicago
Yeah.
than anywhere else I've ever been. It was
Yeah.
a fantastic learning experience. I was so happy to be
Good.
there.
Thank you.
Um, is Loop an acronym?
Yes, it's labels and outer packaging embellishment. So the labels is still really at the heart of the industry and the heart of the show and the heart of what they're doing. This just the adding loop. It's a common tool that's in every printer's shop floor is the magnifying loop. So yeah, I think it's a really nice nod to that while
Yeah,
still maintaining the core audience.
I love it. Okay, now to the heart of our conversation. What does making your move mean to you at this stage of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I've really had a lot of thinking about this. And, it's almost what I said earlier about like maybe I'm being too self-important or is it coming off arrogant saying that we really influence the industry? And it's like I really had to step back and think like, it's not that. Making a move can sometimes mean to own what you are and who you are and understand your place, like you said. So I have made some different career moves, in my time in my career, right? And also in my time in my career in the print industry. So yeah, it's just kind of owning that, who you are and understanding your place.
Can you share a moment when you took an action that moved your career forward?
Yeah. So there's been a couple, as I said. I mean, not too many, but because I've always been in journalism my whole career. But one is what I kind of refer to as my COVID sort of recalibration or reset, maybe. So during that time, I had worked for Labels and Labeling magazine as the North America editor. And COVID was a time where everyone was kind of reevaluating, if you remember. And so I actually left the magazine and I went to an industry supplier where I worked on their marketing team. And overall, it was a great experience. But then the opportunity kind of presented itself again to return back to labels and labeling at an expanded role. So taking on the content director role at Loop, which was at the time Labelexpo. But when that opportunity presented itself, I really jumped at the chance. So at the time, I didn't leave to escape anything that was bad or anything negative that was happening. I left really to kind of expand. And I really do think that distance from the editorial side and from the newsroom basically gave me a perspective. And that perspective really gave me this kind of power to understand what I wanted. And what I deserved, really. So it really helped me also understand from the commercial side what the advertisers at Labels and Labeling or the exhibitors at Loop, like what are they going through? And how the magazine and how the show can help that, understanding how decisions are made, understanding, I don't know, margin pressures, messaging and positioning, these global supply chains. So a lot of times, particularly at the magazine or at the show, we really feel like we're the center of it all, but really we're part of a larger ecosystem. And I think stepping away really gave me the perspective to understand that.
Yeah, perspective is absolutely everything. So you did say that you decided to explore a different avenue during the pandemic. Was was it just because you were, why was that the right time? You were just self-reflecting a lot? Were you, had you been thinking about it before?
Yeah, I think it was the opportunity there kind of presented itself and we were all stuck at home. I had went from a role where I was like traveling a ton to now I'm at home. It was just sort of this recalibration, this reset. And the role presented itself and I thought, okay, this will be a really interesting path to take. Let me see what this will do. And it was a great experience. It was a great company to work for. I'm still friendly with the people that work there and I left on really good terms, but the opportunity to come back to labels and labeling and Loop in this global role. I mean, I couldn't turn that down. It was something I actually found that I missed, right? I was so narrowly focused on what I was doing when I was working at a supplier. I missed having that kind of wider global aspect to my day to day.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So one follow-up question to that, when you made this little shift,
Mhm.
you were the North American editor for labels and labeling.
Yeah.
When you went to this new role, was there a different organizational chart? Did you have like more bosses now because you were kind of high up in the food chain at the job before you came back to your job?
Yeah, I think it was just different how it was set up, right? It was a marketing team basically. So there was content marketing, which is what I worked on really closely, and positioning and messaging and getting everything, getting more publication and more opportunities for people to get access to their products. So it was just set up differently, to be
Hmm.
honest. I don't know if it was more bosses, less. It was just different, right? So then when I came back, now I manage a global team. So I just was focused on North America. Now I oversee the entire global team. So we have editors in Europe, Latin America, we have North America, obviously, we've got China. We've got an editor out in New Zealand who oversees our digital and our Southeast Asia coverage. So really, yeah, just going from kind of being narrowly focused for a lot of the my career in the print industry to really kind of expanding it globally.
I love it. What advice would you give to women in print and labels and packaging who are thinking about their next move? What they
Yeah.
how to assess it, you know?
Yeah. I would honestly say to build a reputation and not just your resume, right? Like this industry is so small and it's really relationship driven. And I do kind of think that your name and the way you treat people travels really fast, right? Faster than your resume or maybe even your LinkedIn profile. So, just be fair, be prepared, be consistent, and be nice, right? The industry is a lot smaller than it looks, and people remember when kindness goes a long way.
When you left labels and labeling, I'm assuming you didn't think you were going back was something that was going to happen. So you really made that jump without a safety net, so to speak, without a backup plan at that time. So I can't imagine it was such an easy decision, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. And I want to just drill a little deeper into some of the things that you considered leaving that job and
Mhm.
really you're still doing the same thing, but it's a whole new team. It's a whole new set of circumstances. It's a whole new a thing that you're talking about, a product. I mean, a show and a magazine is a product, just like the marketing team that you were working for, I'm sure, had a product.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. It wasn't an easy decision because the thing is, it wasn't like I was leaving a bad job, right? Or bad team or bad manager or anything like that. I loved it. I just kind of felt like, I want to try new things. I want to try my hand at marketing. I want to see if what I like about this. And I did like it. Like I said, it gave me good perspective. And then coming back, it was some of the same team actually that was still there. So I still work really closely with Tasha Ventimiglia, Jade Grace, Andy Thomas Emons. And those people really, that was a big draw for coming back was to be like, okay, I get to work, really closely alongside of them, like really having a seat at the table to kind of make, bigger decisions.
I I just love that they reached out to you, because sometimes when you leave a company, even under the best circumstances, they could still be a little bitter because you did such a fantastic job. Now, what are we going to do? Although, look, everybody, we're ripples in the pond.
Yeah.
Even though you
Yeah.
should own what you do and what you add to everything, but everybody is replaceable
Well,
at the end
yeah.
of the day. But they still you still going back to that professional reputation, right? They
Yeah.
still you didn't burn any bridges. So can you talk about that? Like, what is the right way to exit so that a door is always still open? I will
Yeah.
tell you, I'm not really an exit with the door open person.
Yeah.
Like when
Right.
I'm exiting, I'm like, okay, adios, everybody.
Right. But I think that a lot of that goes back to what I was saying about the reputation. Because during that time in COVID, I was getting calls all the time like, hey, we need marketing help. We need this, right? Like, would you ever leave? And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. It was just kind of one of those things. And it just happened to be like the right company, good conversations. Like, I felt very comfortable about that. But also, when I left, I made sure they were set up. I made sure, I was still I maintained contact. It wasn't like a bad breakup, right? Where you're like, we're going no contact. It really wasn't like that. I still saw them at events. We were still in the same industry. They warned me when I started the label industry that it's a sticky industry. And honestly, I truly believe it. It's like you want to keep that reputation to maintain that because you just never know. And like, honestly, I never knew that I would go back. It just so happened that the person who was managing the magazine, he had left to start his own PR company, and they needed the help. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I think I would really like this. Like I said, this seat at the table, working with these people that I love and still love, and just doing something a little bit differently. Like honestly, I didn't think about it, but it was a pretty easy choice to come back.
It's amazing.
Mhm.
Last question about this is what do you think you brought with you from the your temporary job back to your new job?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I really think it helped me understand that we aren't the center of everything that we think we are, right? And I think it's really easy, and not just in media or in events, I think in any company, right? You think you're like the center of your customer's world, and it's like you're probably not, right? You're just one part of this larger ecosystem. So I just really think it helped me kind of step back and see everything from overarching, like, how these companies and how these suppliers are making decisions and how they decide whether or not to advertise or exhibit, and understand like their pressures and understand their messaging and their positioning, so then maybe we can help them. It just kind of gave me a more of a commercial view that I hadn't really had before when I was strictly doing editorial.
If you were to write your career memoir right now,
Yeah.
what would the title be and who would you ask to write the forward?
Okay. Okay. So I've thought about this because you warned me this question might be coming. So before I was in labels, I was a crime reporter for a newspaper outside Chicago. Yeah. People love that story, right? So I think,
I'm in love with this story. I've always wanted to make the graphics for for the trials and stuff.
you could, Deborah, it's not too late for you to make a move.
Okay.
But I think my book would be called From Crime Scenes to Boardrooms. But I really think that kind of captures how I went from, covering crime scenes in courtrooms and court cases into this B2B world and into these boardrooms and these conversations. And I think who would write my forward is I would ask my friend and my partner in crime over at Loop is the Loop America's director, Tasha Ventimiglia. She's a very dear and close friend, but she's someone who's really championed my career at Loop. She was, the big reason why I decided to come back. We work, hand in hand. She's just someone who I've worked really closely with. And even though she claims she can't write, she really can. And I think she'd do a great job at writing my forward.
Chelsea, it is always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your information. We really appreciate it. Everybody, check out the Loop and empower long and prosper.
Thank you so much, Deborah.